It was a good old-fashioned butt whooping in Houston as the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think the score even tells the story of a 26-15 loss at the hands of the Houston Texans. But we do have some game balls, some immediate reaction, semi-immediate reaction if you're watching us live on YouTube on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker post-game 49ers pod coming at you a couple hours after the game because we waited for this window pre-Sunday night football to come at you live. If you're listening in your car on the way to work Monday morning, it's all the same to you. And breaking down the San Francisco 49ers loss in Week 8 to the Houston Texans, 26-15. Our reactions to this loss, talent versus execution is a conversation I want to talk about, Croc, about this loss and what the 49ers can do going forward. And, of course, we're going to give out some game balls, as we always do after a San Francisco 49ers win or loss. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. So, Croc, obviously this was a game where it did hit the under, only by a half a point, though. I think the over-under was 41.5, and there was 41 total points scored in this one, 26-15. I thought it would be an easy under because I knew it would be tough for the 49ers to move the football, so that wasn't super surprising to me. It's one of the best defenses in the league, run by DeMeco Ryans in Houston, in their house, early morning game, right? 10 a.m. start time. I'm sure some West Coasters feeling it's like, oh, this is a little too early for a 49ers game right now, especially this season. Haven't had a lot of those 10 a.m. starts. And I was mostly disappointed at the 49ers defense. And my first game ball, Croc, sort of tongue-in-cheek here, goes to Bryce Huff, because apparently Bryce Huff was the straw that broke the camel's back. Niners were fine without Nick Bosa. They're fine without Fred Warner. Bryce Huff, unavailable for the 49ers. And suddenly, they made things look way too easy for an offense that had a really tough time moving the football and scoring points this year for the Houston Texans and C.J. Stroud dicing them up. And so I was mostly disappointed with the 49ers defense. Now, with all that they had lost, I think you should have expected this, and I would have expected this earlier, but I think maybe we got lulled into a false sense of, man, it doesn't matter who's out there. The 49ers are going to be great. A little too much in this one, which I think leads to our next conversation about talent versus execution. What did you see out there from the 49ers defense? A lot of folks talking about, maybe they're playing too soft in the secondary. It's hard to get a pass rush when you don't have your two best pass rushers, your two really real pass rushers. It was difficult all day for the San Francisco 49ers.
It was very difficult for the 49ers from start to finish. And I think one thing that the Houston Texans did a great job of is they kept the 49ers off balance. And this is an offense who they're missing a lot of receivers. Like you said, they've kind of been in stagnant offense. They haven't really ran the ball very well. And all of a sudden, their run games gets clicking. They did an excellent job of being very efficient and executing at a high level in their quick, short game. And then when they had to hit some shots, kind of deep crossers and whatnot, they executed that. Terrific throws. So C.J. Stroud kind of looked like rookie C.J. Stroud, and that was a good thing for Houston Texans today. But the 49ers, when you don't have a pass rush, I think you have to do things a little different. Obviously, you want to try to send some pressures. But if you're going to send pressures, or if you're only going to rush 4, you have to play a little bit more aggressive with your defensive backs. You have to press, and you have to consistently make good throws. And a lot of times with defensive backs, when you have guys press, it could change kind of the depth of the route. You're supposed to be here, but now you're flattening that route off a little earlier, and the quarterback's not expecting that. So you kind of throw off some of the timing and the rhythm. And the 49ers didn't either. So they had no pass rush, but I felt like they played on the back end, as far as how it's called, as if they had a pass rush. And that hurt. That combined with not being able to stop the run early on really hurt the 49ers.
It was sort of a bend, don't break game plan and style, but it was so flexible in the bend that it might as well have broken, right? And there wasn't a lot of huge plays. There was some big plays in this game for CJ Stroud and the Texans offense. But when you just look at how easy it was to move down the field is really what jumped out to me. I mean, Stroud was 30 of 39 passing, 318 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, did have the interception right at the very end of the first half. Congratulations, San Francisco 49ers, on their first interception in 9 years. And, spreading the ball around. They didn't have their top receivers, but it didn't matter. Now, they do have a lot of talent at wide receiver, because to miss your 2 top receivers, I still think that their group, more prepared potentially than some other teams like the 49ers to lose their top guys. And the Niners had to go find a bunch of veteran free agents to bring in, and Kendrick Bourne being one of them, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and, a cast of characters, and Sky Moore, and trying to complete their wide receiver core. But the Houston Texans had all these guys, all season long, all camp long, all off season, some of them from last year. And you have a second rounder and a third rounder, and Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, who both look like really good players, I think. You have Braxton Berrios, who's been a good slot guy for a long time. Xavier Hutchinson is somebody who gets no really recognition around the NFL, but he's a good football player too. So I think they were a team that looked more talented. And to be honest with you, I thought the Houston Texans, not just because of the score, I just thought top to bottom they were a more talented football team than what we saw the Atlanta Falcons put out on the field last week. And I know the maybe the game plan or how things went in these games were different, but man, I would much rather play against the Falcons than the Houston Texans. I watched this game and watched this team, and I wonder how they're 3-4. Their offense had to be so bad because the defense has been really good again all year long. One of the best, maybe the best defense in the NFL this year. I mean, Will Anderson, I think sometimes you got to recognize a player on the opposing team, right? And we give out some game balls sometimes. Game ball DeMeco Ryans, game ball Will Anderson. I know he didn't have 5 sacks like Myles Garrett did for the Browns, but it felt like he had 5 sacks. He had enough pressures to get 5 sacks in this game, and he was just all over Mac Jones all game long.
Well, in the chat, we have Mark Buford, and he wants to talk about, he said, I know Will Anderson's a stud, and he's beating Colt McKivitz. I think he'll beating everybody he lined up against. This guy was in the backfield early and often and making life pretty miserable for the 49ers. Talked about the quick game, in those short, intermediate, efficient passing plays that the Houston Texans got. The 49ers just were not good at anything, mostly at kind of any of those levels. It was very clunky. I think a big part of that is because of the offense from Houston Texans holding the ball for nearly 10 minutes on their first drive. And I played against a team like that earlier in our season. Matter of fact, I'm 8-1 right now. First year as a head coach. We lost 1 game so far. The very first game of the season. Wing T team. And they held the ball. By the time we had our second drive, it was the middle of the second quarter, and the plays were 38-2. They had 32 ran plays. We had 2. One, we had a long touchdown, but we had 2. That throws off your entire rhythm as an offense. And I think we saw that big time for the 49ers. The 10-minute drive, then another drive. And the 49ers, although the defense was kind of holding up a little bit, only giving up field goals, the offense was getting off the field way too quick.
Man, and just impressive, Jalen Petrie making a stop. You had Kalen Bullock making plays in the back end. You had the interception late. I thought Kalen Bullock was going to have an interception, by the way, on the touchdown to George Kittle, and somehow Mac fit that in. We're definitely going to talk about Mac Jones and the 49ers offense here in a bit as well. The linebackers, Azeez Al-Shaair, we've seen a lot of him. We knew what kind of player he is. One of the best defensive plays I've seen all year, especially nobody can defend Christian McCaffrey in the pass game. Henry To'oTo'o, just phenomenal. That's textbook stuff. You got to cut that up and show it to your linebackers, Croc. That was phenomenal play for a guy that has a 2-way go on you and a choice route. Or I assume he had his choice of which way he was going to go. I don't know if I've seen a linebacker play Christian McCaffrey that beautifully in the pass game.
Oh man, he was so patient. He kept his inside leverage, and sometimes you tell a guy take away something, run to something. Well, he was hell bent on taking away the inside, and he was going to run to the out. Well, Christian McCaffrey, I'm not sure if it's a choice or not. Whatever choice he made, it was wrong. And that linebacker, I remember him at Tennessee. I remember him at Alabama. Not the biggest of guys, but clearly, as he displayed on that rep, someone who can cover. and he smothered Christian McCaffrey. That was tough. Christian McCaffrey, I mean, the guy who we've talked a lot about his touches that he's been getting. He was far below his average in this game. And when you see coverage reps like that, you can see how it kind of makes it a little difficult even to get Christian McCaffrey going in the passing game.
Let's focus a little bit more on Mac Jones, the 49ers offense in this one. And then we've got to talk about maybe how the 49ers could get right going into week 9 and beyond in the NFL season next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by PrizePicks. Croc, we make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season, whether you're following NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. I know it's a lot of fun to play PrizePicks when it comes to the NBA. Almost every night you got games, and you can have a lot of fun there. And if you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats and those projections on PrizePicks. And if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere, play as many lineups as you want with different combinations. PrizePicks operates, including in California, Texas, and Georgia. And so say you want to just pick your favorite players. You want to go Steph Curry in the Warriors, right? Usually that's a pretty good one, and see how your predictions play out. You can go more on Steph's points, threes, and assists if you want to put them all and stack them all in the same lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. This episode is also brought to you by Rugiet, and let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything in the bedroom, and we've heard it all before, right? It's just stress, just a little tired. Happens to everyone sometimes, but when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. It's fast, simple, private, and it's all handled by real doctors. So visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Mac Jones. I argue, Croc, that while it didn't look great, and you look at this game statistically, you look at an underthrown interception very late in the game, 19 of 32 passing, paltry 193 yards, the 2 touchdowns, the 1 interception. I would argue that this Mac Jones, and this is kind of a topic we talked about, I believe it was last week, about, you know what, circumstances, you think one player, good this week, bad last week. Christian McCaffrey, he's been awful all year. Oh, no, he's awesome now because he had 1 good week. Oh, no, now he's bad again because he only had 25 yards on 8 carries and a 3.1 yard average. I would argue that Christian McCaffrey is the same guy this week that he was last week and the first 6 weeks of the season. I would argue that Mac Jones has been the same guy in every single start. It's what's around you. What are the circumstances around you? What are you asked to do? And I think this was the most difficult ask of Mac Jones so far this season. And I mean, he threw an underthrown deep ball last week. It just didn't get picked off. He threw a good deep ball this week to Juwan Jennings, and Juwan Jennings wasn't able to come down. Maybe it kind of faded a little bit to the backside of Juwan Jennings, and it made the catch a little bit more difficult. But I would just argue that if you're throwing deep balls to Juwan Jennings, your offense is probably not ideally put together. You know, you're throwing to Juwan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne, who are good players. They're NFL football players, but it's not Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Ayuk. Did have the touchdown pass to George Kittle, which I mentioned earlier. I thought Caden Bullock was gonna pick that off for sure. And then you see the other angle. It was just a really nice throw for Mac Jones to fit it in the only place he could throw it, and a nice adjustment for George Kittle to make that catch. And so, to be honest with you, I thought there were some really good throws from Mac Jones, and I don't think he was worse than any other week that he's played in some wins. I just think that with the pass rush, the lack of receiving talent on the outside, under pressure constantly, defense not able to get the ball back to the offense to let them keep trying to go and make some plays. He wasn't perfect, but he hasn't been perfect in most games. I don't think you can put this game on Mac Jones. I think maybe a little too much was asked of Mac Jones in this one.
Yeah, I think there's times this season where Mac Jones has played well, but I had to look up his contract right now. He's essentially making about $4 million per year. So when you're making $4 million a year, my expectations aren't as high. So, hey, can you make some, above average throws? I thought he did a few times. There was one that was like on the sideline. I looked at my bro. I said, "Damn, that was a throw, right?" And the one that he's kind of squeezed in there, Juwan Jennings on the sideline near the end zone, that was a good one. I did like the go ball, but at the end of the day, man, you got to keep the ball out of harm's way. And ultimately, late in the game, yes, there is pressure in your face. Still like to get you to throw that ball where your guy gets it or nobody gets it. And he left it short. And ultimately, that ended there were any chance that the 49ers had of making a comeback. Also was not ideal. You talked about who you have out there. The 49ers don't have go ball guys. Now, if you are right around the goal line, 15 yards out, you want to throw a fade to a guy, I like Kendrick Bourne. I like Juwan Jennings, where they can kind of win a little bit more with positioning as opposed to having to outrun a guy. So just the fact that you're throwing that ball that he did to Juwan Jennings, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that. So that is tough when maybe that is your personnel. But hey, Demarcus Robinson, what do you have him for? Isn't he supposed to be a guy that can be a little bit more of a field stretcher? Obviously, he's not a high volume guy, but let's try to see if you can win with him vertically down the field. So I think with the way the roster has shaped out right now, it's not ideal. And it doesn't matter what quarterback you have. You can have Brock Purdy back there, and I'll tell you, I don't like the thought of him just throwing these go ball, jump ball fades to Juwan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne. You want to give my guy a speedster, or you give him a guy that has shown over and over and over that he is a great contested catch guy down the field. Then I understand. The Kyle Shanahan has kind of built his receivers this way, though, who are the vertical stretchers. We talked about Brandon Ayuk when he was coming out. He's not even quite that guy. So the 49ers are going to have to live in a certain area, and have done a good job of that for the most part. Mac Jones has contributed to that for sure. But today, just out of rhythm, run game wasn't going. He's had some games where it didn't matter. This game, it definitely did.
LKV in the chat says lack of explosives is definitely hurting the offense, and I agree. The Kyle Shanahan offenses have had explosives in the run game and the pass game, a lot of yak stuff. So you're not getting explosive runs. You're not getting a lot of yak from this team this year. Yak Bro's been non-existent. George Kittle barely back and only has a couple catches on the entire season. Big plays is a problem, and you're not built in the way to make big plays deep down the field in the passing game with your quarterbacks or with your receiving group. And I will say, and this isn't at anybody, in the chat specifically or anything like that, but it is funny because like a couple of weeks ago, it's like, okay, quarterback controversy, maybe Mac Jones is better and you shouldn't have paid Brock Purdy all this money. And then you have a game like this, and all I'm seeing is, 49ers miss Brock Purdy all of a sudden, right? And it's like, you miss his ability to move around. And so it's like, okay, well, which is it? And I think it's circumstance in a lot of ways. And Brock Purdy didn't look great in his last game against the Jaguars because a lot of those circumstances and trying to play from behind and a bunch of drops, and he's hurt on top of it, right? So, yeah, a lot
Brock
goes
actually
into
made a couple plays with his legs.
Yeah. And
excuse me, I said Brock. Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. Mac Jones. At one point, I think it was halftime, Mac Jones had 13 rushing yards. And that was like half of the 49ers offense at that time.
Yeah.
So Croc, next I want to ask you the question about talent versus execution, and some more game balls to give out from this matchup in week 8. Tough loss against the Houston Texans. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Gametime. Love having the NFL season back every week. It's amazing. It's already 8 weeks down in the NFL season. There's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans, whether you're at home or you're on the road. cheering for your team. And let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout. Super frustrating. And that's why I use Gametime. And I think if you're a sports fan, you ever want to go to games, if you ever want to go see concerts or comedy shows or any kind of theater events, anything you need tickets for, you got to have Gametime in your pocket ready to go. I always check Gametime first when I'm going to go. And a lot of times it's kind of last minute when I decide to go to an event like that. And so I love that you can get phenomenal deals on last minute tickets with Gametime. And you'll always get 100% authentic tickets with the Gametime guarantee, delivered on time and at the best price, plus all the fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay, no surprise fees at checkout. And honestly, it's just faster, cheaper, and less stressful way to get tickets. Whether you're looking for NFL tickets, NBA tickets, baseball, concerts, you name it. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. The NBA is back along with the NFL. There's no sort of World Series baseball. There's no shortage of ways to get involved in on the action at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And it's the official sports betting partner of the NBA at FanDuel. And even if you missed the start of the game, maybe you want to ride the hot hand. FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next two fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting and interesting, especially when your team's the one that's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All you got to do is find a bet, place your first $5 bet for new customers at FanDuel. And if that bet wins, $300 in bonus bets to bet on a number of different ways on the FanDuel app, no matter the sport. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, Croc, I know something I heard you say in the squad show with four-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board and Eric Tribble. Talent and execution. Were the 49ers short on talent this Sunday? Or should they have been able to execute better with the talent they had on the field? Because I felt like they were short on talent in this one, and it really started to show against a team that had a lot of talent in a lot of different places. But even whether you have a lot of talent or not, you still got to execute, right?
I think the 49ers have been short on talent for a majority of the season, which is why it was so surprising that heading into this game, the 49ers were 5-2. I've also talked about how I haven't had the highest expectations for the 49ers because of all the injuries that they were having heading into this game. I mean, the 49ers are super banged up. And then you're playing in the game and you're continuing to lose defensive linemen. I mean, that's a position you just can't lose at all. I saw Alfred Collins go out, and next thing you know, another player goes out. 49ers are kind of struggling with the whole injury thing, and I don't know exactly what it is, but they have to play these kind of perfect games because of how they're currently built. We talked about heading into the season, the 49ers offense needed to carry the defense. And then we saw some games where the defense was kind of bailing out the offense a little bit. And you can only ask that so much of a defense that is just now missing Nick Bosa, missing Fred Warner. You have a lot of first-year guys or first or second-year guys at each level. It's just not ideal. And I think at times this season, we've seen that youthfulness really kind of shine through for the 49ers in a negative way. So if the offense can't figure out how to consistently score points, the 49ers are going to have a really hard time to win football games because you can't count on this young defense that's missing all these big-time players to help you out. But then the offense is like, well, we can say the same thing. There is no Brandon Ayuk out there. You know, you're missing certain guys. George Kittle finally back. You do have Christian McCaffrey. 49ers are going to have to figure out how to be more explosive with those guys. And maybe it is getting back Brock Purdy.
I got a game ball to give out on the 49ers defense, and that is to Diamador Lenore. And he was banged up this week. And he went out there and he collected the 49ers' first interception in 14 games or something like that, almost an entire season of no interceptions. And maybe he should be utilized as a punt returner too. It was not I mean, I don't know how many yards I don't have it up. How many yards was that interception return? At the end, I know he wasn't even gaining a lot of yards, but there was like 9 different Texans trying to tackle him, and he was slippery. So I wouldn't mind seeing him maybe get a shot at returning kicks. I'm sure he's done it at some point in his life. And I know
Maybe
he's
that was
trying
him
to house that.
auditioning for a return role.
Yeah. And look, all of a sudden, Brian Robinson Jr. is the one back there. No Isaac Guerrero returning kicks too. Guerendo's a ghost. Why, like, activate the rookie if that's the case, right? Activate Jordan Mason, who can't get activated. We did get to see Jordan Watkins activated in this game. There was the one throw, was a little bit high. Been a tough catch for him. You know, not really involved in the offense too much, was the rookie, so we didn't really get to see a lot there. And Croc, I only have 2 more game balls. I don't know if you want to jump in with the game ball in this game. I know it gets a little bit more difficult in a game like this where not a lot of players stood out and did a lot great. But it is National Tight Ends Day, and both 2 49ers tight ends, George Kittle and Jake Tungus, get the touchdowns. So that account for both the touchdowns for the 49ers. So you got to give him some credit there. And kind of just went back to the same play after the touchdown. It was like the Mac Jones kind of roll right, throw the quick out. And it was 2 levels of Kittle and Tungus. And I think he probably could have hit either tight end on that out when he's rolling right. And then they do the 2-point conversion. And it looked almost identical. It was just, who was it? Demarcus Robinson running the quick out. And he rolls right and throws the quick out. So I don't know. Maybe they need to utilize a little more of that quick rollout and quick out game, because it was undefeated. And this one was one of the only things that was going right for the 49ers. So big ups to the 2 49ers tight ends on National Tight Ends Day that scored touchdowns in this one. Kittle did get involved, 4 catches. Would like to see him involved a little bit more. 4 catches on 5 targets for 43 yards. And pretty interesting how identical the stat lines were for the 49ers top 4 receivers, by the way. Juwan Jennings had 4 catches for 45. Bourne had 3 for 44. Kittle had 4 for 43. And McCaffrey had 3 for 43 with a 27-yarder.
I'd like to give a game ball to Brent Boyer. I like that you brought up special teams. Special teams made some plays trying to give the 49ers some kind of a chance. Obviously, it didn't materialize into a lot more, and you would like to see a return for a touchdown at some point. But just trying to flip field position at a time where the 49ers are kind of struggling to get anything going offensively. So that was exciting. Whoever's idea it was to put Robinson back there, I thought he looked strong on his runs, not like the fastest guys, but had a little wiggle to him and was able to run through some arm tackles. So that was exciting to see. Another game ball, just because the 49ers are so banged up, but see Jordan Watkins out there getting his first action in the regular season. So not a whole lot to be excited about, but you're hoping that some of these decisions that they've made in this game, you can kind of build off of it.
Yeah, in a game like this, why not give a game ball to Jordan Watkins, rookie, getting his first action, getting his first reception of his NFL career on 2 targets, 1 catch for 7 yards there for Jordan Watkins. And I
Davis, not giving Khalil Davis a game ball, but there was just one play where, it was terrific. You just saw him come off the ball, strike with leverage. We talk a lot about your head being lower than your hands, and that's showing that you have good leverage. He disengaged off the block and made a tackle for no gain. So those are kind of some of the things in the trenches that people don't quite pay attention to, but I thought that was an awesome play early in the game.
He was he's a leverage monster. He's definitely built low to the ground, and he's a really interesting player, and has flashed for the 49ers this year. And he's kind of the reverse of Alfred Collins. And Alfred Collins is just this big, massive dude that can crush people and kill people and has this huge club of an arm. And then also he gets pancaked, which he did in this game on one of those Woody Marks runs up the middle. It was a rough rep in the film room, I think, for Alfred Collins on that one. Tomorrow, Croc, we're going to have to talk more about the defensive line. There's some more injuries that have popped up for the 49ers in this game. We'll get some more information from the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan about those injuries. And we've got to start talking about the trade deadline. We're, between the next, week to 10 days, we're going to talk a lot about this trade deadline, what the 49ers could possibly do. There's been some reports out there, whether it's calling the New York Jets, calling the Cincinnati Bengals, who lost to the Jets, who got their first win of the season. There's a number of teams I think the 49ers could call. So I think we've got to dip into some of those, especially now when you get some reports about specifics about some players that could be available, and especially on the 49ers defensive line, more injuries on the defensive line for the 49ers. in week 8 as well. Another quick note I want to make was everyone's crushing Colton McKivitz for the game Will Anderson has. We know what Colton McKivitz is. Will Anderson is just awesome. And yeah, like you said earlier, Croc, Will Anderson beat 68. He beat 71. Trent Williams. He beat 61. Matt Hennessy, that was that first drive where Mac Jones just got blasted after he got rid of the ball by Will Anderson. But that was not ideal when you have your center who's trying to block Anderson, but kind of like out on the edge, on the outside of Mac Jones, and that was a play action play. So I think the blocking assignments got a little bit tweaked on that one. And so a lot of not ideal for the 49ers up front, but it wasn't all on Colton McKivitz. I do want to say that, even though he might not have had the best game. But man, Will Anderson looked like the best football player on the field by far. You know who was everywhere making mistakes and big plays was Jair Brown. He had the big stop on 3rd and 1 on the first drive that made the Texans kick a field goal the first drive. And, then there was some wide receivers open.
He had another big stop around the line of scrimmage as well, for a tackle for loss.
And a big hit. So he was on fire. In
just textbook, the way he's seeing it, firing. There are certain keys that you could read as a linebacker, as a safety coming down in the run game. When you see these linemen pull, it's going to kind of take you to the play. And if you could beat them to the punch, there's going to be a gap there. You can have a nice tackle for loss. So especially on some of these outside zone runs or even some of these inside zone runs when they have guys that are pulling. So yeah, he shot in there a couple times and had some terrific tackles.
Malik Mustafa as well had some nice hits, and then also had one where he got okey-doked by, I think it was the tight end too, Dalton Schultz, that made a catch and made a nice little move on Mustafa to get the first down. So look, some good, a lot of bad for the 49ers in this one. We're going to break more of this game down and talk specifically about some of the injuries, get some information there, and trade deadline is coming. It's going to be a big topic on tomorrow's Locked On 49ers. So you're going to want to tune in. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.